Game week is here. San Francisco 49ers versus New York Jets. It's 7 days away. 49ers are finally going to be playing real football, and it's time to take a first look at this matchup of 49ers versus Jets. We're going to talk about all that and more in this episode of 49ers Cutback.
From the alley-oops at Kezar to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way. From off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. Time to talk about the 49ers versus Jets, and we're finally there. Real, tangible football is here. No more offseason, no more preseason. It is time for games to start. And of course, games for the NFL are going to kick off Thursday. We're going to start getting games Thursday, Friday, and then back on Sunday and Monday. To cap it all off of week one, San Francisco 49ers welcome a familiar foe back to Santa Clara in Aaron Rodgers. Now, this time, Aaron Rodgers comes with a little bit different team than we've seen him in the past. Of course, we're used to him coming in as a Green Bay Packer, and it was mixed results for Aaron Rodgers. During the regular season, he had some success against the 49ers, but in the playoffs, the 49ers have historically dominated Aaron Rodgers while he was in Green Bay. But this is a regular season game, and everyone's looking to kick it off the right way and win their first game. Now, Rodgers is coming off an Achilles injury that he suffered just 4 plays into his first season with the Jets. So he's looking to rebound, and Robert Saleh, a familiar face, the head coach of the Jets, is looking to come in and get a big win over Kyle Shanahan. Now, Kyle Shanahan historically has been very good against coaches that come from his regime, that are a part of his coaching tree. He's done a very good job against guys like Sean McVay, against Matt LaFleur. This is something that he does well. He coaches well. He even beat Mike McDaniel with the Dolphins. So it's always a tough task to come in and beat Kyle Shanahan. But Robert Saleh is not the only former 49er coming in on this coaching staff, but also defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich is also coming in. So it's going to look like a familiar defense. The style at which the Jets play is eerily similar to what the San Francisco 49ers and first-year defensive coordinator Nick Sorensen are going to run. And so you're going to have some similarities. You even have some bodies that used to be on the 49ers that are on the Jets. So it's going to be for a fun matchup. There's a lot of cool matchups in this game, offensively and defensively. Looking forward to going through all of that this week because there's a lot to get into. Anytime you can talk about X's and O's and Jimmy's and Joe's, it's a lot of fun. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about because both of these teams have also brought in key players that they feel can get them over the top and help Aaron Rodgers and help Brock Purdy. 49ers continue to build around Brock Purdy an offense that returns 12 of the 11 starters, right? Because you have to add Jawan Jennings into that. But the 49ers return pretty much everyone. Now, we know there's a little bit of a changeover at right guard. We'll go into that for the 49ers as they look to a young rookie to take over. But the fact that you brought all those guys back and yet the young rookie's going to take over, that means you got better at the position, and that is good news. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Really appreciate it. If you're listening audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe, please give it a 5-star rating. And if you're going to bet with Bet Online. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. Bet Online has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Think you know your stuff? Get in on our 200,000 mega contest and pick 6 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200,000. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Bet Online, the game starts here. So I want to talk about key additions because we know that last year the the New York Jets really struggled after the loss of Aaron Rodgers. It's not that the defense didn't play well, because they did. The problem was the quarterback position. They tried a bunch of different options, including Zach Wilson, who they shipped out to Denver as part of a trade. And they have been looking for that quarterback for a while that could potentially take them to the next level. They hoped it was going to be Sam Darnold, who was in San Francisco last year. And of course, that will be the 49ers week 2 matchup, Darnold and the Vikings. We'll get into that next week. But the fact that you're going to have Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback is exactly what the Jets want. Now, he did not play in preseason. So we have not seen Aaron Rodgers yet beyond practice video that I've been able to see. But we don't know exactly how he's going to perform. Now, realistic expectations for Aaron Rodgers are he will play pretty good. Now, it's been a long time since he played, so there probably could be a little bit of rust. What's he going to look like until he takes his first contact? Those are always question marks. Plus, one of the 49ers' key additions is Leonard Floyd. It was Leonard Floyd that sacked Aaron Rodgers in week 1 last year, and that was the play that he hurt his Achilles. He tore his Achilles. So the 49ers have Leonard Floyd that they've added to this 49ers pass rush, and they had to remake this 49ers pass rush. They had to have key players come in that were going to be able to help this team. Now, it does appear Leonard Floyd is going to be able to play. He's been practicing, and he's been recovering from the MCL sprain. Now, he was listed as day-to-day. That's great news, because having the ability to put Nick Bosa and Leonard Floyd opposite each other is something the 49ers have wanted for a long time. Since the 49ers traded for Dee Ford in 2019 offseason, they have really looked for a player that could come in and make those plays, and Dee Ford, when healthy, was fantastic. But since then, they've tried a bunch of different routes. They've tried drafting other players like Drake Jackson. Hasn't worked out. Drake's out for the whole year. Hasn't really materialized into what they were hoping. They signed Samson Ebukam in free agency, and he did pretty good, but never the elite status they were looking for. They traded with the Houston Texans for Charles Omenihu. He developed into a solid player, but never that guy that was opposite of Bosa that was going to be a game changer and a game wrecker. Last year, they traded for Randy Gregory. He didn't reach those expectations. They traded for Chase Young. He played well, but didn't live up to the expectations they're looking for. They haven't found that guy. This offseason, they made a concerted effort to find that guy. And they think it's going to be Leonard Floyd, a guy consistently that gets double-digit sacks. And that's exactly what you're looking for opposite of Bosa. And I've heard a lot of people say, well, he's a guy that kind of chases or gets guys that kind of come through him. He's a garbage sack guy. Well, you know what? When Nick Bosa puts pressure, we need guys that can get garbage sacks. Look at week 1 last year against Pittsburgh. Drake Jackson, 3 sacks in the game because he was cleaning up the garbage. The quarterback getting outside the pocket, making a play. That's what you got to do. Get on him. Don't allow him to make those plays. So Floyd is going to be able to put pressure. He's had a great training camp. He's looked good. He had the sack in the last preseason game, the only one he played. That tandem together is going to be fantastic, and they're going to have to be fantastic. The New York Jets have added to the offensive line. They were not joking about improving. They had Mekhi Becton, who kept getting hurt all the time, and they knew they needed to bring in some guys. So they went out and they got Tyron Smith from the Dallas Cowboys, longtime veteran. When he's healthy, he's one of the best offensive tackles in the entire league. But that's the point, when he's healthy. He has struggled to stay healthy over the last several years. Now, he's no mystery to the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers and Cowboys have met up every single year over the last few. Most of those in the playoffs, but last year in the regular season as well. And the 49ers have handled the Dallas Cowboys overall. They shut down that offense, and they've played well. Now, that's a different situation, right? Dak, Aaron Rodgers, different. But Tyron Smith is somebody that they've game planned against. It's somebody that Nick Bosa knows the tendencies and techniques that he uses and what is effective against going against him. And so those things can carry over. Those are things he can share with Leonard Floyd, and they can get on the same page. And the 49ers also brought in Yetur Gross-Matos from Carolina. And he's going to play a unique role, and we don't know if he's for sure going to play in this game. We'll see. He has been week to week with the MCL sprain. Same injury that befell upon Leonard Floyd happened to Gross-Matos in the last preseason game. Now, Gross-Matos was a little bit more significant, so we don't know for sure. But if he plays in this game, he's going to be the third defensive end in the game. And then also on obvious pass downs, he's going to slide in and play over the guard sometimes. That's going to give the 49ers some versatility to be able to get pressure with a guy that has a little bit more lateral quickness to get past an offensive guard. Plus, it opens up the ability to run stunts. You put him on the same side as Leonard Floyd and you run a little TE stunt. He goes outside. Floyd works his way inside. You could do that. You can also drop those guys out because Leonard Floyd used to play 3-4 outside linebacker, running a zone blitz concept. Dropping Leonard Floyd out into coverage is something you can do. So versatility is what the 49ers got. And Gross Matos is an emerging player. Coming off his first contract, he got 4.5 sacks last year. That's a good number for a backup defensive end. And he's probably going to have more opportunities to play inside in that formerly known Arden key role. And so the 49ers are excited about it. So Tyron Smith, they added to the left tackle. You look at the right tackle, and they brought in Morgan Moses. They traded for him from the Baltimore Ravens. And so Morgan Moses is going to be playing one side, and Tyron Smith is going to be playing the other. So they've got bookend tackles now, guys who are veterans, guys who understand how to play NFL caliber football. And when they're healthy, they're really good. And that's going to be one of the key matchups in this game is going to be the 49ers defensive pass rush, especially on the edge against these offensive tackles. Now, it hasn't all been gravy for the New York Jets on the interior offensive line either. They had brought in Laken Tomlinson when he left San Francisco on a huge contract, right? Coach John Benton, their offensive line coach, knew him very well. Laken Tomlinson was there with them in San Francisco, so it's a plug-and-play type situation for Nathaniel Hackett's offense. But Laken Tomlinson really struggled once he got away from San Francisco and got away from Kyle Shanahan's offense. And so he's now in Seattle. And they had to go out and they had to make a move, and they brought in John Simpson from the Baltimore Ravens. So you're getting Simpson and you're getting Morgan Moses from a very good Baltimore Ravens offense and offensive line. And so key veterans is what they're doing at the position. So these are some key additions along the offensive line that they're going to try to use not only to create a nice pocket and protect Aaron Rodgers, but to run the football, to allow Breece Hall some avenues to get some carries and get some extra yardage. And so it is a concerted effort for this Jets offense to be more balanced and for Nathaniel Hackett to be able to kind of rely on some play action. Now we know Rodgers is going to Rodgers. He's going to be able to get outside the pocket. He's going to extend plays, and he's going to make some wicked throws that when he gets his arm throwing these balls downfield, it just jumps out of his hand. The ball jumps out. And he's usually extremely accurate. And so I'm excited to see what this offense looks like for the Jets because the Jets had some key additions along that offensive line. And we'll talk about their playmakers in a second that they added on the outside to give Aaron Rodgers some more weapons as well. But the 49ers didn't just add on the edge with Gross Matos and Leonard Floyd to go with Bosa. They also added in the interior defensive line. Javon Kinlaw moved over to the Jets. So he's going to be starting with the Jets, and that's going to be, something that's going to be fun to watch. Last year, he was a good pass rusher for the 49ers. Struggled when it came to stopping the run. So the 49ers, they know Kinlaw well. They know how he plays. The 49ers offensive line is going to have to get underneath him and make some plays because Kinlaw and Quinnen Williams, 2 first-round picks on the interior part of this line, are really good. Quinnen Williams had 5 sacks last year, 5.5. Did a really good job. He's one of the best defensive tackles in the entire league, and that's going to be a tough matchup for 49ers offensive linemen Dominic Pooney, Jake Brendel, and Aaron Banks, who's going to be back and practicing this week after the broken pinky and surgery. The 49ers getting to more full strength when it comes to interior offensive line, not so much on the outside. We'll talk about Trent in a minute. But the same way that Kinlaw and Solomon Thomas, former 49ers, are players that are going to be helping this D-line, 49ers had to rebuild their defensive line. They went to Eric Armstead. They asked him to take a pay cut. He did not like the numbers they came with. They reached an agreement to go ahead and release Eric Armstead. He goes to Jacksonville and signs a very lucrative deal there. And the San Francisco 49ers pivot. At first, what they do is they sign Jordan Elliott, defensive tackle from the Cleveland Browns. He started a lot of games last year and is 6'2", over 315 pounds. He's a large man. He moves well. He can rush the passer, though he's not as effective as most. 2.5 sacks for Cleveland last year. but mainly he was a top 10 guy when you look at efficiency against the run in the league. So he did a pretty good job when it came to stopping the run. He's looked pretty good so far in training camp and preseason, stopping double teams, which is a bugaboo for the San Francisco 49ers offense. Now, the good news is they should be able to hold up for the most part against this Jets offensive line. That's going to show you a guy like John Simpson and Elijah Vera Tucker, who is going into his 5th year with the football team. Elijah Vera Tucker, I saw play a lot in college. He's a very good interior offensive lineman. So 49ers got some matchups there with Jordan Elliott. But they also traded for Malik Collins. And this is where you find your starter next to Javon Hargrave. Javon Hargrave, still one of the top 10 defensive tackles in the entire league. Self-admittedly, had a not so good season last year. He wasn't as effective as he was hoping he was going to be. Now, how much of that was Eric Armstead being out of the lineup? It could be a lot. But he's going to be expected to step up from having 7.5 sacks last year, where the 49ers probably want him at double digits. And Malik Collins is going to be tasked with helping him with that. Malik Collins is a absolute manster, part man, part monster. I mean, that's just what he is. He's a serious beast. And just watching the plays that he had during the preseason, where he took on a double team and threw off both grown men, these huge offensive linemen, discarded them and made the tackle in the hole. One of the best plays I've seen from a defensive tackle with the 49ers in a little while. It showed his ability, his strength. And Jordan Elliott and Malik Collins are going to be expected to help the 49ers kind of trouble some run defense last year. They need to make sure they occupy blockers. They need to make sure they penetrate and create pressure in the backfield, because we've got to keep the linebackers for the 49ers clean. Fred Warner has to be able to roam free. If offensive linemen are able to get on him, it's going to make it difficult for the 49ers to stop the run. So they made an effort there to get better at defensive tackle. Kinlaw gone, Armstead gone, in Malik Collins, in Jordan Elliott. And both of those guys started a lot of football games last year. Elliott for Cleveland, Malik Collins for Houston. So you added 2 starters to make up for what you lost. And Javon Hargrave, still one of the best defensive tackles. And then the 49ers have Kevin Givens, who's been with them for a long time. So concerted effort to rebuild the 49ers defensive line, and they needed to do it because you can't allow yourself to get gashed the way you did by the Detroit Lions in the NFC Championship game. And the Jets have that ability with Breece Hall and this offensive line if they get rolling. So 49ers got to make sure that doesn't happen. And part of the way you can do that is Devondre Campbell. So Dre Greenlaw, he's not going to be with the 49ers for a little while. He's definitely going to stay on the PUP list, dealing with the Achilles injury that he suffered in the Super Bowl. And so the 49ers needed to bring in a linebacker that could fill the gap and at least bridge the gap until Dre Greenlaw got back. And they found a former All-Pro in Devondre Campbell coming over from the Green Bay Packers. Now, Devondre Campbell is definitely better against the run than he is the pass, but he's also been formidable as far as coverage as well. He's a guy that was just 2% worse in coverage last year than Dre Greenlaw. The one thing I can say about Devondre Campbell is he sure does tackle really well. He's tall, he's long, and he tackles well. You can see his instincts on display, the way that he recognizes coverage, the way he recognizes concepts by the offense, what they're doing pass-wise. The run, he reads the guards really good. He's able to shed blocks, make tackles. To me, he's a complete veteran linebacker that's going to help be right next to Fred and bridge that gap until Dre gets back. Question mark for the 49ers, though, not named Devondre Campbell, is going to be Sam linebacker. How much are the Jets going to put the 49ers in their base 4-3 is going to be one of the most serious questions going into this game. And we'll get even deeper into that during the week, because that has been an avenue that teams have found to take advantage of the 49ers. Detroit really did it a lot. They got the 49ers in a base 4-3 and then went after Oren Burks last year. Then in the Super Bowl, once Dre Greenlaw went out, Kansas City Chiefs attacked Oren Burks consistently. Now, Burks is gone. He's moved on. He's with Philadelphia. But the San Francisco 49ers don't have a legit answer right now at Sam linebacker. They were hoping it was going to be D. Winters. Winters suffered an ankle injury, and so he's been out of practice. When will he be back? That's one thing to monitor this week when D Winters is going to be available. If he's ready to go in the game, maybe you go with the young guy D Winters who's flashed during the preseason. But they also have two veterans who have been battling it out. Coming into the season, you would normally say DFF had the advantage. Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, he's been with this team. This is his 5th year now, and they've developed him from undrafted free agent safety out of Arizona to linebacker in the NFL, and a good special teams player. Now, he has struggled when stopping the run in the preseason and training camp. A real struggle. You look at Curtis Robinson, the undrafted free agent out of Stanford. He's been with the 49ers for 3 seasons. He has looked really good. He pulls the trigger really well in the run game, gets downhill, makes tackles, been pretty good in coverage as well. I would say if you're going off play during training camp in the preseason, you're going Curtis Robinson. But I don't know if Coach Johnny Hollins is more comfortable with Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles. So that one is still up in the air about who starts in the 49ers base 4-3. And I think the Jets are going to challenge that a little bit and test what the 49ers do, trying to find matchups for their running back, Breece Hall, out of the backfield, and also finding matchups, for other guys on their team that they can take advantage of on a linebacker. Maybe they want to get their tight end, Tyler Conklin, out there and find an advantage against a linebacker like Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles or Curtis Robinson. That will be something, to watch, and it'll be a lot of fun this week. So I think that's going to be one of the first things. How much can they have success running the football? And then what does that lead to as far as the 49ers base 4-3? Because both of these teams are absolutely fantastic when it comes to the cornerback position. The San Francisco 49ers are rolling out there with all-pro Charvarius Ward. They got Deommodore Lenoir, who is coming on the scene in a big way, expected to have a big season. And he plays outside and he plays inside, which he will do this year. And then they added Isaac Yiadom. And Isaac Yiadom from New Orleans started 9 games last season, and he did a really good job. 14 passes defended. Fantastic. If he can turn some of those into interceptions, he could have a huge year for the 49ers. He's long. He's physical. He can definitely do it. At training camp, he looked great, but he's coming off an ankle injury, but he was back full-time at practice last week. He is expected to get the start. And we know we got young Renardo Green, the 2nd-round pick out of Florida State, who can step in on the outside or play the nickel corner if that's what's asked of him. So that's very good for the 49ers. And when you look at the Jets, the New York Jets got some really good cornerbacks. It starts, of course, with Sauce Gardner, one of the best cornerbacks in the entire league. And he has just been one of those guys. He's probably going to be going one-on-one with Brandon Ayuk for most of the game. Get your popcorn ready. That is going to be one heck of a matchup. And then former 49ers draft pick DJ Reed. We talked about former 49ers on the team, Solomon Thomas, Javon Kinlaw. Well, here we go, DJ Reed. And, of course, we know what happened. The 49ers, he got injured. They didn't want to lose him. They tried to get him to the practice squad. They tried to get him through waivers to IR. Did not work. Seattle Seahawks picked him up, and they ended up having him until he hit free agency and goes to the Jets. And he's been one of the better corners in the league. He's been really, really good. I think when you look at him and Demo, they're two of the best number 2 corners in the entire league. They played really well. Love DJ Reed, the attitude, the physicality, everything. And then they've got Michael Carter in the nickel, and he does a very good job as well. So you can see cornerback strength for both teams this season. Both are going to be doing a very good job, and they need to because they're going to be going against some of the best wide receivers in the entire league. And, of course, we already know that the New York Jets are coming with some good wide receivers. I mean, anytime that you have a game changer like Garrett Wilson, you got to start there. But then they had the addition of Mike Williams from the Chargers. So you're talking about speed. Mike Williams, the big, tall speed player. Then you got Garrett Wilson, who gets in and out of breaks well, runs great routes, can create yards after the catch, and he's getting the ball from Aaron Rodgers. That is really fantastic. So the 49ers cornerbacks are going to have their hands full. Plus, they've also got Xavier Gibson, and they drafted Malachi Corley. And we know a lot of people saw Malachi Corley in the draft as an eventual Deebo Samuel type player. So Corley is probably going to have to work in a little bit. It's going to take him a little bit of time to get up to speed, but they don't really need a lot when they got those 3 guys. Now, we'll see. Mike Williams is coming off an injury. We'll see what he looks like. They still have one of Aaron Rodgers' favorite players in Allen Lazard as well. So It's a good wide receiver room, and that's going to be a fun matchup with Lenore, Charvarius Ward, and Isaac Yedem. And that's what you're looking to see. And when it comes to the Jets, yeah, they got a great cornerback room. I mean, it's really good. They're going to be going against some good wide receivers for the 49ers. Brandon Ayuk, Debo Samuel. We'll see what happens with Jawan. Jawan Jennings been dealing with the oblique, hasn't practiced. Hopefully, he'll gear up in practice this week. But that's a nice 1-2-3 punch. Of course, no Ricky Pearsall after the incident in San Francisco where he was shot. He's been officially put on the NFI, the non-football injury list, meaning he will miss at least 4 games. But the 49ers still have key veteran Chris Conley. That's going to be huge for them. Young rookie Jacob Cowing, who showed the speed and ability to get open running good routes. He's going to help. And then they still have Ronnie Bell as well that they kept on the roster. And now it's been a great decision with some things that have happened roster-wise. They can have those guys. But Debo, Brandon Ayuk, Jawan Jennings, those guys are going to be fun. And it's going to be a cool matchup to see the cornerbacks for the Jets against them. And then what are you going to do at tight end? Because Conklin's pretty good for the Jets, but George Kittle is an all-pro. George Kittle is either 1A or 1B in your mind as best tight end in the league. He is fantastic, blocking and catching the football. And if I was going to say there was one weakness just on paper looking at the Jets' defense as far as personnel goes, it would be at safety. They've got Tony Adams and Chuck Clark, and so yes, they're good, but they're not great. I think that could be advantage George Kittle. We'll see what kind of matchups Kyle Shanahan could come up with, how much 12 personnel he will run with some of the additions like Eric Saubert, Jake Tunges to the tight end room. Could we get more 2 tight end sets at times? Maybe get interesting matchups for the 49ers. When it comes to backups, another 49er at safety in Isaiah Oliver. And we know he played some safety last year for the 49ers. That's interesting. And then they got Ashton Davis, who played at Cal and would have been a nice fit for the 49ers when it comes to safety. But just like the Jets have question marks at safety, so do the 49ers. The San Francisco 49ers don't know right now. Maybe they know, but we don't, about the status of Talanoa Hufanga, who comes back from the ACL. Now, he is practicing. He did individual drills last week. Maybe they'll ramp him up into team drills this week. We'll see. If that's the case, there's a chance Hufanga plays week 1. If not, the San Francisco 49ers know they've got Jair Brown. Last year's 3rd round pick is absolutely fantastic. He might as well be a torpedo because he flies downfield and makes plays. Active around the box, good in coverage. Jair Brown is an up-and-coming star in this league. Then you look at who's going to play next to him without Hufanga. It's going to be special teams ace George Odom. And that might not get a lot of people's attention, but George Odom has had one of the best off seasons of any player in San Francisco. Deommodore Lenoir had the best overall. He's been brilliant. But I would say next after that has been George Odom. He's been consistent. He's been good. He looks day and night different than he did last year. Better in coverage, still good around the box, doesn't miss tackles. So that's who will line up veteran presence next to Jair Brown. Then when the 49ers look at depth, they've got a young guy, Malik Mustafa, who is a guy that just flies around like a guided missile. That he's fun to watch. I think the 49ers would love to give him more time to be able to marinate and get better. And then you're probably going to have Tracy Walker, the former Detroit Lion, elevated from the practice squad for the game, and he'll play as a special teams guy and be that 4th safety if Talanoa Hufanga is not available and ready to go. So that could be a advantage for the Jets if they find matchups where they can attack George Odom. We'll see if Odom holds up. Way back when, before we knew how well George Odom was playing, that was my biggest concern going into this game, was Aaron Rodgers and the Jets being able to take advantage of George Odom in coverage. So we'll see if that ends up being a problem for the San Francisco 49ers as they're building this team. Now, you look over at the Jets, and especially on defense, there's one glaring hole, and they've got a lot of talent, don't get me wrong, but Hassan Reddick is not reported. I mean, he is on the did not report. 49ers have Trent Williams, which is huge, and this is where we'll talk about both of those guys. Hassan Reddick has not reported. Of course, they traded a 3rd-round pick to get him from the Philadelphia Eagles, but they're going to miss a pass rusher in Reddick, who has been a problem for the 49ers in the past, and that could be huge. Now, they do have tremendous talent behind him. They have Michael Clemens and Will McDonald that can play in that role of Hassan Reddick. So they have talent to do so. So those guys are still going to be able to put on pressure for this New York Jets edge rush to go with Jermaine Johnson, who's really good. So they've got good edge presence. And the Trent Williams thing makes this even more crazy. If Trent Williams doesn't play in this matchup, and I'm hoping the 49ers work it out, and I would expect that they want to, you're going to have Jalen Moore, who is the swing tackle, and Colton McKivitz at left tackle and right tackle, left tackle and right tackle, going against a young, fast guy like Will McDonald, or going against Michael Clemens and Jermaine Johnson. So even without Hassan Reddick, this edge rush from the Jets is formidable. They are really good. So the 49ers are going to have to make sure they can run the football. And they're going to have to run the football consistently to make sure they take some of the pressure off. You can't have third and longs against this New York Jets defense. Jeff Ulbrich will dial it up to come after Brock Purdy and this offense. And we know that guys like Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel are going to present some interesting matchups when it comes to linebacker play. Jets have some of the best linebackers in the league as well. Normally, when you go into a matchup, Christian McCaffrey and Deebo, getting a matchup of them on linebacker is advantage 49er. In this case, it's going to be a lot more of a crazy battle with all-pro Quincy Williams and CJ Mosley, who have been playing really good. So it's going to be a battle with that as well. It's hard to find advantages. That's why through the week, we're going to talk about key matchups and try to find advantages for the 49ers that they can take advantage of. Because you even look at the depth, the interior defensive line. We talked about Solomon Thomas, but they also have a young guy, Leonard Taylor, who has looked good as well. And then they also have Tack McKinley, a former 49er, who spent most of his time with the Atlanta Falcons. So it's talent all over the place for the Jets. It's talent all over the place for the San Francisco 49ers. They added key players. One of those for the 49ers being Dominic Pooney. And guess what, Dominic Pooney? You get to go against either Javon Kinlaw, who's one of the biggest men there is. I mean, these guys are massive. I mean, he's huge. We like Javon Kinlaw in San Francisco. He just couldn't stay healthy. So Dominic Pooney, you either get to line up against him or Quinnen Williams. So it's going to be a good first test for Dominic Pooney and the San Francisco 49ers offensive line. Could get a lot easier. 49ers are able to ink a new deal with Trent Williams, and hopefully they do it sooner rather than later and get this thing done. So this is the 49ers versus Jets first look. Of course, during the week, like I said, we're going to go through key matchups. We're going to talk about some of the numbers as well of how these offenses go about it. It's going to be a little bit tough to figure out because of Aaron Rodgers in Nathaniel Hackett's offense. We haven't seen it since Green Bay, so we'll have to figure some of that out. But it's going to be fun. We're going to get through. We're going to touch on every single topic and subject and work through the week. So that way, when we get to the game, everyone knows what to expect from 49ers versus Jets. And guess what, guys? Real football's here. It's finally time to start talking about games, matchups, and wins and losses. And that's exactly what makes the sport so great. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. If you're listening on audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe, please give it a 5-star rating. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online. The game starts here. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.